Um, this is the election cycle, and there are a lot of issues that'll face us. And probably one of the most important long-term issues is Initiative Petition 28, which was pushed through by the put on the ballot by the government unions. And with me is Salem businessman Dick Withnell, and he's going to talk with us about Initiative Petition 28 and tell us why it's a bad idea.
Well, thanks, Michael. It's an interesting idea, that's for sure, because most of us think about when we pay taxes, we pay it on profit or income, not on what generates that income or profit. This is a gross receipts tax, and it's significant because it generates money coming from sales from C corporations. I don't think maybe the general public understands that there are several different types of corporations. We're talking specifically about 1,000 corporations, and when you think of a corporation, you think of Intel or Nike or somebody that large. But there's also corporations who, like myself in the car business, who are C corporations. This law, one particular part about it is that it doesn't have S corporations, and it doesn't have LLCs, and it doesn't have ESOPs. So it's a very narrow tax on those gross corporations, or C corporations, I should say.
Now, gross, okay, you sell cars.
Right.
Now, so they're going to tax you on, say you sell a car for $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to charge the tax is going to be on $30,000. That
Yes.
doesn't take into account that you had to buy the car to begin with, and the
That's
overhead
true.
of your business, and
Right, and it doesn't give us for a person that's on a lower net income. Grocery stores are kind of in the same boat that we are. Our gross sales are significant. You know, our size dealerships in Salem are in the $100 million range, divided by 12 in sales per month. Well, that's a lot of money. $100 million is a lot of money.
I'd like to have that.
Yeah, right. And a lot of people would say, yeah, the cars are getting more expensive, and that's exactly what's happening, which pushes that gross figure up. But then our net on that, statistically, nationwide, is around 1.75 to 2.2%. And that varies up and down. I mean, like in 2007 and 8, of course, it went down, way down below. We were just barely breaking even. But so this gross tax, sales tax of 28, is going to generate income above $30 million. And that, again, when you talk in the millions of dollars, people, of course, say, "Gee, that's a lot of money." But when you're netting, let's take us for example. If you're a business, C corporation, for $100,000, you'll pay taxes of 2.85 approximately on $70 million. Well, that would be a figure of around 1.5 to 1.9 million last year. And for a lot of us, if you take 2% of $100 million, then you're going to be right at what we're generating for income. And then there's a real echo effect. Then it decides on how you're going to spend money yourself as a company, but then also it affects the employees. We've already corporations have been hit by Measure 66 and 67. We've already had headwinds of our expenses by the Obamacare, and so you start then where can you cut back on, and that's normally employees, and so you know our personal business is probably 160 to 170 employees, and because of 2007, 2008, business slacked down significantly when the downturn came. So we haven't regained back employees to that figure. We're probably down 20, 25 employees, and so that's that you have to look at areas where you can generate income. So or excuse me, not generate income, where you can look at areas where you can cut expenses, and employees is one of them. That's very unfortunate, because and then also we've got the minimum wage that we're going to be looking at too. So I guess, you know, to do business in Oregon, you really have a lot of headwinds coming at you.
Yeah. One of the things I was wondering, you know, like the legislature said there'd probably be about 38,000 people lose their jobs. I know a young lady, she's working for one of the car lots. She washes the cars, makes sure they're clean and everything. And one of the things I worry about on this passing is her job. If this passes, will that even exist this time next year?
Well, of course, you look for the soft spots where you can cut back on, and probably so. See, another thing too, when you peel the onion back, that person, I've had that number of individuals like that. Matter of fact, I've looked back since 1980. We purchased the store from Emerson Tigg in 1980. I have, well, now they're getting older, but about 5 people who have come out of that job into being a full-blown technician, where they can earn over $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. And so we're talking about, Michael, a whole different subject matter here now on a person who's just washing cars, just being a lot person, who you train to go into the lubrac, into how to lubricate cars, then they become a technician. And so when you're at a higher wage, then you have to really be cautious on how many people that you have. You don't have the luxury if you're at a 2% net to be able to train your employees like you should. And you know, this is kind of a sidecar to what we're talking about. But there's also this esprit de corps that you have with employees, that you really want to have, you know, the American dream of capitalism, where you can work your way up the ladder. And this tension that we're seeing out there, and maybe it's because, you know, we're recording this right after the Republican and Democratic conventions, but there seems to be this tension, this animosity between the so-called haves and the have-nots, instead of having how I believe in the high tide raises all boats. Yeah. Well, right now there seems to be a lot of pressure that the 1% are the bad people, and then everybody else is supposed to be against them. And it's rather interesting at my age to see this take place, because I started out with absolutely nothing, and fortunate enough to go to school, go to college, fortunate enough to find something I really like to do, to be in salesmanship, and then being able to generate income to purchase a store during a real not. That's when prime was 23, you know, 23%, and in 1980. So, you know, we're not echoing the opportunities that we have. We're kind of dividing us, and I don't like that.
Yeah, and there's a part of me, in fact most of me, that suspects it's on purpose, because if we're fighting each other, then, and if we're, instead of helping each other, then we need government help, and then the government can step in and say, we're going to take care of you. And
yeah, I you know, I'm not a conspiracy guy at all, but I had the opportunity to do some business in Poland right after the wall came down, and those people believed, after they came out of communism, that the definition of capitalism is that, you know, you have between transactions between individuals and for goods and services with minimum amount of government intervention, although you need the government for regulations, uncertain regulations and what have you. But then the other side of that coin is doing transactions and having business and between individuals and between companies where you have total government intervention. And I think that really squashes the true meaning of capitalism. Recently, I just had an opportunity to do a small business in Indonesia. And Indonesia is a relatively new country, 18 years or so, old for democracy. They're running towards capitalism. And it seems like, and of course, I'm probably older than you are, Mike, but anyway, we're seen to be going the other way. And I don't mean to, I try to hit I'm a lousy golfer, but I try to hit it down the fairway. Sure, I have my own beliefs, but the idea of having all of these restrictions and all this headways for us to be like we were, well, like when the President Clinton was Bill Clinton was in office, or when JFK was in office, cutting taxes, letting businesses generate more business, to hire more people, to allow other people to be entrepreneurial. That seems instead of having that thumb on you where you just can't hardly breathe by earning, and when you're talking about a tax that goes up 25%. 25%, think about that. And then the idea was it's being sold a little bit on, not a little bit, but I mean sold on for education, and I came out of a education home myself, but it's being sold on that it would help education, help these other things. But see, when the money goes into the legislature, they have free will. You can't dictate to how they spend it. And so, yeah, it's really, really frustrating. And the money to bring the education purpose to this, I mean, it'll be probably 40, maybe I'm exaggerating, 20 to 25 million spent on both sides on this argument, and that kind of money could really be better spent.
Yes, it could. and
see, it takes leadership, Michael. It takes leadership to sit down. I think our whole taxation in Oregon needs to be looked at. I mean, the property tax needs to be looked at. The sales tax needs to be looked at. I know that's and we need to take a look at well, we're one of the few states. USA Today said that Oregon is the worst state to die in, because we have inheritance tax at 16.5%. And so, we need to take a look at, but it takes leadership to get everybody at the table, and this includes the unions, includes business, includes everyone at the table, the politicians at the table, and aim towards high tide raising all boats, not just half of it.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, like my young friend that this year she's doing, washing cars, and she does plan to go to college, but as she learns that job, then ideally she would also learn how to do technical stuff and advance up the ranks. And I'm afraid that we're going to be losing a lot of this if IP 28 passes.
Well, we're going to have it'd be a matter of survival. This is probably. Of course, I've sold my business to my son 14 years ago, and I still have my toe in it. But this hit like this, 1.5 million to us in a locale. I mean, the echo effect. I mean, how about all the 501c3 giving? How about all the Little League stuff? How about all the American Legion teams? All this stuff, that local dealers come together on, just in this one segment of business, and there's you have the other store, Michael Roth and all these guys contributing significantly. But when you have to just look at survival, and then you slow down the entrepreneurial expansion and what have you. It's very discouraging.
Yes. Now, they say they're going to spend it on education,
right,
seniors, and one other thing. But are they going to be spending it for a bureaucracy, or are they going to be spending it to actually help people, even if it goes to where they say it's going?
Of course, those questions are are the political questions. I don't really know. I have good friends on both sides of the aisle. And genuinely so, I really miss Brian Johnston. He died way too soon, and have a good relationship with even Governor Brown. It's just that it's this. When you're talking about 1,000 corporations, and then you whittle it down to, I think the statistics on retail people are down to like 200. I think I've got it on this pad here. That who are really involved on who it's going to touch. It's really so divisive. There's 286 C corporations my size in Oregon, 286. So of those 286, then everybody's mad at the people who are at the 250 million. 100, there's 106 on that. So it's just so divisive. It just makes every Oregonian who and Nike would fit into this, who really believe in our state, who really want to see our state to be the best state to live in. I mean, why are we living here? I mean, if it's not the best state, move out, you know. And see that this is the tension. And now we're talking, you know, you were talking a little bit about politics on the bureaucracy and stuff, and yes, that's all true and stuff. But I'm talking about, you know, corny stuff like, you know. I really believe in our Mid-Willamette Valley, first of all, and Oregon, because they gave me this opportunity to be a business person and fulfill my entrepreneurial dreams and what have you. And I think that should be for everybody. And when you do this type of thing, to say, well, gee, why we become almost, you know, somebody said, like, you know, you're milking the cow all the time. Pretty soon, if you don't feed the cow, which is the businesses, you're not going to, you know, things are going to dry up.
Yeah. And the way they're promoting it, Teresa Leon, who's a Democrat running for House District 22, has come out and said, yeah, we need IP 28 because the greedy corporations, and she's definitely pushing this class warfare thing.
Yeah. Yeah, greedy corporations, all right. So see, the greedy corporations gave $250,000 to Kroc Center. That was the dealers, all of the dealers. And the greedy corporation did the disability setup at the hospital. That was $35,000. And, you know, that's so inflammatory, and the consumer finds out about you if you're not genuine. So she's insinuating that you know, we're crooks or what have you. I don't know. I just discount that as political talk, I guess. But the idea is that our country is founded on capitalism, and that for us to run away from that, this is a classic. I mean, think about anybody in business at a approximately 2% net go 25% more in taxes. I mean, yeah. That's kind of overwhelming. And we'll figure out a way. You know, every business person will figure out a way how to come around and stuff. But it just puts such a damper on to, you know, to dig in and to help the community, as well as be profitable with your employees. It can be discouraging.
And I guess people don't think about, you know, why. I mean, if you're going to be poor, America's the place to be poor. This is the only country in the world where homeless people have cell phones.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a reason for that, because we've allowed businesses to be businesses, and you know, and like you said, you know, the consumer will find out if you're not being honest with them and everything.
Right. Yes, right. Yeah, I think the poverty is a big issue. I've been involved in that for the last 3 or 4 years myself, part of the Oregon business community. Of course, when you talk about poverty and when you're talking about homelessness and stuff, the first thing that should be on the agenda is JOBS, is jobs. And then when you throw $1.5 million or $1.7 million in the type of business that I'm in, then we're taking away some jobs too. in the Mid-Willamette Valley, we're like the reentry. I'm chairman of the business reentry for the state of Oregon for businesses, and it's incredible what businesses say. Okay, we'll give you a second chance. We'll do this. I mean, I'm not going to divulge any of their names and stuff, but they're just incredible hiring people coming out of prison and stuff. This is all putting pressure on those people because of cutting back because of expenses and because of taxes. So I guess the bottom line would be for me is that we have everybody sit down at a table, leadership, and I think that's one thing that Governor Brown should do. So far she says she's neutral, but then yet she's come up with a plan of how to spend it. So that's not being too neutral in my mind. And we just need to encourage entrepreneurialism, not just put a wet blanket on it with a bill of 2.8% of sales, and then not treat everybody the same. I mean, that's what's incredible if you're a C Corp. And then we'll have to go out and try the C Corps we'll all try to go to S Corps, and that'll be very expensive to do, and all of that. So
what's the difference between a C Corp and an S Corp? And
C Corp is the S Corp is where the income of your corporation goes right to your personal financial statement, so you pay personal taxes on it. Whereas the C Corps, they have corporate taxes, and you only pay your taxes on what you pull out of the corporation. Whereas the S Corp, it just flows right to you, and you pay your ordinary income tax on it. There's advantages, disadvantages on it, and then there's the LLC, the private corporations, and then there's the ESOPs, which are done by the employees buying out the company and that type of thing. So this is just C Corp, just 1,000 people, and I can assure you, Mike, I have no intel. I am no. It's interesting. We talk about business in Oregon. There was 13, 14 Wall Street firms, home offices were in Oregon in 1980, and now we only have one, and that's Nike. So there's a reason that people are leaving the state in that regard.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because it does seem to be a lot fewer jobs than there was.
Well, I think with our livability and with our mountains and with our oceans and the rivers we have and lakes that we have and what have you, that this can be the very, very best place to live and work and play. And so, it's just this headwinds. I just wish you to see leadership where we could get the Portland crowd, the outside of Portland crowd, the Constitutionalists that you always beat the drum on, and practicality of it, and get the union people to come together and to address all of these wide variety of problems that we have, and do it by the bootstrap on what's best for all, and let that high tide of Oregon raise all boats. That's all boats means a yacht or a dinghy, which you and I would be on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And this, like you said, this is a beautiful state, and we should have. And our country was founded on the principle that people would have an opportunity.
Right.
And it seems like between the regulations and the taxes, opportunities are fewer and fewer, and it's almost like it's
right.
a
I don't know whether or not you could have done. In 1980, I'm in my 30s, and so I had ability, proven track record of being a manager and salesperson and what have you in the business. Had an opportunity to buy a business, and then there was no Barney Frank. The Chrysler was going down for the third count. Dodge Store wasn't doing very well. Iacocca was our leader, and by working extremely long hours and having a wife that says, okay, this is your dream, go for it. And it was just the American dream. And then I had an opportunity of being National Dodge Chair, over 4,600 dealers, going to Poland. I went to Poland with Luis Palau and a group of people, and then I just fell in love with Poland in the 90s. And then Dieter Zetsche, who was the chairman of the board of Freightliner, became CEO of Mercedes, which bought Chrysler. Found out I was going to Poland. We did an American-style dealership over there. And here's this little guy in Salem doing that. And Brian Johnson was dean of Atkinson School of Business, and so we brought some people over here to go through the Willamette. But which is hard for me to say since I'm a Linfield guy. They were running towards capitalism, not as a dirty. And so then that was 15 years ago. I was doing that for about 8 years. Came back, got hooked up with Corbin's connection over in Indonesia. Now these Indonesians are all running towards capitalism. Well, here I come home, and you and I are talking about IP28, which is, I mean, it just really is obnoxious in what it will do to small businesses, even though they have sales of 100 million. Now that sounds like, now divide that by 12. Yeah. Okay, and then take 2% of that, and then have the exposure of in 08 of having every car dealer, and I'm not crying for the car dealers, but every car dealer in America had the wrong car in stock in 30 days. So you don't know what the tariffs are going to do, the financial rates are going to do, what the government's going to do. I mean, you're buying cars at 90 days to 120 days. You could have the wrong cars in stock. So there's a great deal of risk there. Then throw a cost of 1.9, 1.8, 1.7 million on us. My age, I'll probably get out of this, but I'm telling you, I mean, it makes your eyes water if you're my son or so, or other young people coming up in the business, and it squelches of any other people with great attributes to come into the business. That's what's said, because this is corny, but the land of opportunity is the U.S. Yeah. And the land of opportunity is Oregon. That's why they came over in their, they weren't driving cars out here. They were behind an oxen, and then the wheels were falling off and everything else. But they wanted that land of opportunity, and the Mid-Willamette Valley was just perfect, just perfect for it. And that's why we live here. So, the disappointing thing for me is not only that have to spend the money. I mean, the car dealers will spend probably $500,000 easy on it. I mean, we have to. I mean, we have to push out there and tell the people what it's really all about, and then and that money comes away from all of these good things: family building blocks, Liberty House, CASA, Catholic Community Services, all these good things that help the underprivileged, the unserved, the young kids that are at risk. And here we are screwing around with this deal. It's just, it could be irritating if we wanted it. It could be irritating. We may need a sales tax, but we got to address property tax. We got to address all this other stuff too, but not on top of us.
And I don't think sales tax right now would be a good idea, because we do have all these other taxes.
Exactly. No, they all have to be all done. The property tax for sure. Yeah. And I'm getting older. Maybe I'd like to look at the inheritance tax. There's only in 2000 there was 38 states that had inheritance tax, and now there's 6, and we're number 1.
Yeah, when I think about the inheritance tax, it reminds me of the Bible when it criticizes Israel for stealing from widows and orphans.
Yeah, that's especially the farm people. They really get hit hard. And if you can't afford to get tax information and having a good tax account, I mean, it's crazy playing those games like that. Yeah. So that's something.
Definitely like to see inheritance tax go away.
Yeah, 16.5% is a little steep.
Yeah,
a little steep. So, thanks for inviting me. I just hope people will dig down deep.
Okay. I appreciate you coming on and talking about the issues with us, because this is a very important issue that we're facing in November.
Okay, Mike. Good. Thank you.